Okay, 6.2a, we're going to be talking about negative exponents. And for a negative exponent, to simplify, we need to move the item that has the negative exponent to the opposite position. And by opposite or other position, I mean if the exponent is on the bottom of our fraction, we're going to move it to the top. If it's on the top, we're going to move it to the bottom. So if we look at number 1 right here, we have 1 over x to the negative 2. So if I have a negative exponent right here, I'm going to take this whole piece and bring it up to the top. So instead of having x to the negative 2 on the bottom, I'm going to have x squared on the top. And that's my answer, because if I have a 1 up top, 1 times x squared is just x squared. For number 2, now I have a 6 to the negative 2 over 1. So I'm going to take that whole thing, that whole 6 to the negative 2, and bring it to the bottom. So I'm going to have 1 over 6 squared, which gives us 1 over 36. 6 squared is 36. For number 3, when I go to simplify a to the 4th over a to the 7th, I'm going to subtract my exponents. I'm going to take the one on the top minus the one on the bottom. That gives us a to the negative 3. Now, if I don't want to have that negative exponent, right now I have negative a to the 3 over 1. So I'm going to take that whole thing and bring it to the bottom of my fraction. And I get a to the positive 3 on the bottom of my fraction. Okay, let's look at number 4. If I start with my x terms here, I have x to the 5th minus 3. Subtract my exponents. And then my y's, I have y, this is y to the 1st, minus 3. When I simplify these, I get x to the 5 minus 3 is 2, and y, 1 minus 3 is y to the negative 2. So if I want to move that to the bottom, right now all that is over 1, so I can take that y to the negative 2 and bring it to the bottom of my fraction. That gives me x squared on top still. I'm going to leave that where it is. And then my y squared becomes positive on the bottom. Okay, let's look at number 5. I'm going to start with my constants out front here. I have negative 6 over 18. Well, I know that simplifies to a negative 1 over 3. Then I have my r to the 3rd and r to the negative 7th. So that's going to be r3 minus a negative 7. Then I have my s's. I have s to the 5th minus 5. And then finally I have this t to the negative 2 on bottom. If I want that to become positive, I'm going to bring it up to the top. So then I get t squared. Now I can simplify this a little further, so I still have that negative 1/3 out front. R to the 3 minus a negative 7, that is r to the 10th. S to the 5 minus 5 is s to the 0. S to the 0, anything to the 0, remember, is always 1. So that just becomes 1, and my s's drop out. Then I have t squared left, and this becomes my answer. This is my simplified form. Okay, number 6. Number 6, I have no like bases to combine, but I have these negative exponents on my b and my c. So if all of this is over 1 right now, I'm going to take both of those and bring them to the bottom of my fraction. So that leaves me with negative 4a to the third all over b squared and c to the positive 1, which is just c. Okay, number 7. First I have a to the 0, and I know anything to the 0 power is just 1. So my a to the 0 becomes a 1. Then I'm going to take my b to the negative 1 and bring it to the bottom of my fraction. So that can come down here, and it's going to be b to the positive 1 on the bottom. Then I'm going to leave my c squared on top. I can't change anything about my c squared. So that makes this my final answer. Okay, number 8. We have our exponent outside the parentheses here. So we need to apply that exponent to each piece of my equation. So if I have a negative 2 to the negative 3, then I have a to the 3, and remember when I have exponent to an exponent, I'm going to multiply my two numbers together, so I have 3 times a negative 3. Then I have b to the negative 2 times a negative 3. So I'm going to simplify this a little bit. Remember, anything with a negative exponent, this negative 2 to the negative 3 can come down to the bottom. So I'm going to get a to the 3 times negative 3 is a to the negative 9, and b to the negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6, and all that's going to be over my negative 2. Now my negative 3 becomes a positive 3. Again, my a here is negative, so I'm going to bring this down. So my new answer becomes b to the 6. That's all that's left on top. Negative 2 to the third, I can type that in my calculator. That becomes 8. A negative 8, sorry. And then my a to the negative 9 becomes a to the positive 9 on the bottom of my fraction. Okay, last question. Start by multiplying my constants out front. Negative 2 times 5 gives me a negative 10. Then when I combine my like bases, I have x to the negative 4 and x to the third. I'm going to add my like bases. So this gives me negative 10 x to the negative 1. And if I have a negative exponent, I'm going to take that whole thing and bring it to the bottom of my fraction to make it positive. So I get negative 10 over x to the positive 1. This is my answer.